everybody. This is Ida Alavune. Welcome to Celestial You. And I'm here today with Nelly.
Hi everyone, my name is Nelly Sayer-Tued. I'm a shamanic practitioner and attorney, and I'm so honored to be here with you, Ida. Thank you for inviting me again to your channel.
Thank you so much for coming. So I loved our episode 1 so much that we are going to continue the shaman and an astrologer walk into a bar. And this will sort of be an informal podcast type sessions that we're going to be doing. So stay tuned because we are going to be releasing these weekly and we're very excited. Today, we are going to be talking about a couple things. We're going to start with a prayer. Oh, we're going to be talking about the Summer Solstice, which just happened on the 21st, and what the significance of that is, especially with the Vedic system. We will also talk about the prediction for July. So I'm going to do an astrological prediction, a general one for July, and talk about the planetary transits so you can get an idea of what to look forward to. And then after that, we're going to have a discussion about ethics. And it's specifically going to be about practicing with ethics, right? Is that correct, Nelly?
Yeah, I just, it's just come up a lot lately about particularly for healers, kind of using their own energy or sending it out to people who might not necessarily want a healing. And so it's just kind of like a little reminder to everyone out there. I'm sure if you're tuned into this frequency, this vibration, that you are probably a healer yourself or just really looking into this. And so I was guided to just share a little bit about ethics with everybody.
And just so you know, Nelly is actually a lawyer, so she is well qualified to discuss ethics.
Or not, I don't know what it is.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of experience in this area from a legal background, and I think that kind of does apply. We do take our values into our different professions. So
yeah, all kidding aside, I mean, when you act with integrity, then the healing has integrity, don't you think, Ida?
I agree. And it's all about your intention, really. So hopefully we can have a good discussion about ethics and keep that going. Actually, for these weekly podcasts, we're going to be covering several different topics each time. And there will be podcasts that we do talk about occult knowledge, which is something that's going to be coming up. So I'm really excited about that. And so we'll get into a rhythm here, but for now, we can just start with our prayer that Nelly this is what she does. So I'm going to let her kind of take the lead and lead us through a clearing and a prayer.
Okay, awesome. So thanks, Ida. So for everyone who's tuning in, Summer Solstice has a lot to do with the light, working with the light. Shamans in some traditions, they actually clear their crystals during the summer and winter solstice. They will go up to the highest place or mountain and place their crystal there and point it up and just use that power of the light to do clearing. And then you can use the light to clear yourself. Right now is a really important time to do that. Anytime that there's a transitory period, you probably just want to do more of a deep clean, just as you would a spring cleaning, of your house. You need a spring clean or clean your body. So in mind, so just to do that, I've been guided to just share this practice with everybody. And it has to do with, using the light to have it be sent down through and, down to earth to just clear everything out. So I'm gonna get ready for a second with a little bit of rattling that helps me.
Okay.
And how does that sound? Does that bother you?
No, that's good.
Okay.
It's putting us in the mood. I like
So I don't know. Do I need to explain like on your channel what shamans are or what they do?
I mean, we'll cover it at some point. I think let's just like, dive bomb into like the deep end. And then
I don't know.
there'll be lots of informational podcasts about this. So we're just going to start somewhere in the middle.
Okay, great. So so traditionally shamans will use a rattle or a drum or something to help them get into a trance state, which gets you to perceive non-ordinary reality. So if anyone's more curious about that, let us know. But let's just get started. Let's take a few deep breaths together. Just inhale deeply, that breath of life, and then exhale completely. And inhale again, and then exhale. You're going to imagine a light floating down from the heavens. If you work with the archangels, you can ask that they send their light down to you. If you like, you can throw your arms up and imagine the light coming down, down, down through the heavens. And it can be any color. It could be gold or white, rainbow colors, green or blue, purple. Whatever light you choose, just know that that light is just for you. Light is slowly coming down, and it enters through the crown of your head. And it slowly descends through your body, making its way down through your brain. And just feel your head being filled with light. And it makes its way down to your eye sockets, giving your eyes relief from staring at the computer all day, looking at news you didn't really want to see, but you couldn't avert your eyes from. And just see your eyes being filled with light, filled with relief, and just let it go, whatever it is that you saw today. Be present in the current moment. And let it envelop your ears and heal anything that you didn't want to hear today, to your mouth and your throat. Just let go of anything that you said that you regretted, or anything that you regretted saying, and just let that go. Feel the light moving down your neck and shoulders, providing you with that relief. Just relax. Feel your shoulders get heavy and relaxed. Let the light move into your chest and envelop your heart. And feel the light grow there and stay there for a second. You're letting go of any tightness in your chest, any anxiety that caused your heart to mistrust and tighten up. Just let that go. And take a deep breath there and release. You have sending the light down to your stomach and your organs. And feel it gather up anything that doesn't belong to you. Feel it heal your organs from working so hard. And now feel the light move down to your pelvis, your sacrum, and down the backs of your thighs, tops of your thighs, your knees, now your ankles, and finally your feet that carries you all day. And send that light down and everything that doesn't belong to you through your home's foundation and down to the earth. And the earth will accept anything that doesn't belong to you and clear it for you. See the light continue to be moving down through you. And now that you are clear, you can let that light grow. Let it radiate out through your chest. And feel it grow around your body to a 1 foot diameter. And keep growing it. Send it out through your heart. Now it's a 3 foot diameter. Keep growing it. It might be changing colors at this point. Now feel it grow to 6 foot diameter and now 12 foot diameter. And just sit in that light. Know that you are a light being. And the skin that you wear in this human body, it's just the skin, it's not really you. And so it is.
All right.
Hope that helps.
That's really good. It's very timely. You know, we are in Cancer season and there are a lot of emotions being processed right now. So this is impeccable timing.
So this is a practice that people can use at any time to just grow their light. And it's important to just, you know, maybe every morning or every evening if you're not feeling quite right, or even as a preventative measure, just grow your light. It's important to just meet your life being powerful so that you just have whatever it is that you need to drive, have that willpower, have that drive. Your spiritual power is just so important, especially at this time.
I agree. So thank you so much for leading that. I know that people are really needing it right now. And like you said, there needs to be some type of clearing ritual that happens daily or multiple times a day. I have a friend who's doing meditation 5 times a day, and I've never seen her look so good. So yeah, not everybody can do that, but you know, it is important to go through these exercises, and I'm saying that, I'm also reminding myself of that.
Yeah, I mean, how long does it take? Like a few minutes, you know, and it doesn't even have to be that slow. You know, if you're ever in a situation where you feel uncomfortable or you just don't feel quite right, I mean, you can just envelop yourself in an egg of light, and that can help a lot to shield you. It's kind of like your shield against psychic attacks and things of that nature. We want to prevent as much as possible having intrusions enter into our energy fields.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of things going on in the world that affect us and leak into our energy, and other people who might be not having charitable thoughts, for example, may affect you. And so even people who mean well, but just are just negative people, you know, and so there's all kinds of things happening that we don't see that we may be inheriting. And so then there's a lot of that I feel right now. In particular, we might be a little permeable just as a society. There's a lot of shifts going on.
Yeah. So you're going to talk about the shifts, right?
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear about it.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm just going to generally talk about the astronomy of the summer solstice. And then, so really this is when the sun reaches its most northern point. This happened June 21st, 11:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is when it enters the zodiac sign of Cancer. So when people say, oh, we're in Cancer season now, the first day that occurs is when is the summer solstice. And it's significant because essentially the sun has gone to its most northern point, and after that we start losing daylight. And it's very similar. I was actually talking to Nelly before this about a waxing moon or a waning moon. So this is like, now that we've done the summer solstice, the hard work of building everything up, building your reserves, harvesting, that kind of stuff, a lot of this is happened, and we've absorbed a lot of the sun that's come out. And then now it's going to be, the days will be shorter and shorter until the winter solstice, where you hit the, where the sun goes into Capricorn. And during this time in particular, it's a time where we essentially from this point on are essentially resting. And they think about it in the Vedic system, they think about it as the gods are resting at this time through Capricorn season. And so through to Capricorn, so through till December 21st, 22nd, thereabouts. That is the time frame where really it's called the Dakshinayana, and what that refers to in Sanskrit is the southward march. So going from that most northern point southward, losing daylight, known to the Vedic system as the gods and goddesses sleeping. And so because of this, anything you start from this point till December 21st, when you get into Capricorn, is a time where you are diminishing things, or you're reducing things. It's also a time for purification, and it's a time to rest. When you are in the, once you swing back into Uttarayana, which is Capricorn to Cancer, really winter to summer, to the summer solstice, that's when typically in the Vedic system, they say you would start new events or start new programs that you want to endure. So in this, waning time, where this essentially the power of the sun is now waning every day. It's smaller and smaller. So you don't want to start something now that you want to last for years and years. However, I was just thinking of things that you would want to start during this time, and it is basically things that you don't want to commit to. And so thinking of things like jury duty, where you want it to be short, or you want to do a short-term commitment that you don't want to last forever and ever, And so those are things that you want to get done during this time, which is again called Dakshinayana. And so this would be also responsibilities that are unpaid, so if you don't want those to go on forever and like you incur the responsibility of something that you're not getting paid for, it's extra burden. These are extra burdens. It's okay to start them now because they're going to diminish over time. Versus if you're starting a project that you want to be years long, or a new career or education or something like that, it's always better to consider an Uttarayana, which would be from the winter solstice point to the summer solstice point, as a good time to start those brand new things that you want to persist. And one example of the Uttarayana is Nelly's wedding. So she got married in February. So that was starting it in the period from the winter solstice to the summer solstice while the sun is growing. That gives that marriage momentum. Now, I just wanted to caveat this by saying that choosing a date for a wedding, if you're going to consciously choose or use an astrologer to choose your wedding date or between two wedding dates, is very common. You really want to consider that this distinction of when the timing is, this half-year distinction between the Uttarayana and the Dakshinayana, is only one criteria for determining the date you want to choose. And it's not such a thing that you would say, well, I never want to get married during this time frame when we're going from the summer solstice over to the winter solstice. If you have to get married at this time, if you get a really good date by all other standards, it may just be fine. But if you can wait till after we've reached Capricorn again after the winter solstice, that's considered to be just right off the bat auspicious. So that's just one thing I wanted to share about the summer solstice and the period of what I would call like the waning sun, and how we are really supposed to be thinking about ways of purifying ourselves, resting ourselves. It's perfectly fine to continue projects, but starting new projects may lack the oomph that you would get from the sun on the other side from the Capricorn to the summer solstice. Has just like that extra longevity associated with it.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So in case anyone's wondering, we don't like coordinate what we're going to talk about or anything. So all of this is new information to me. If I'm really quiet when Ida's talking, it's because I'm like really listening really hard and trying to learn something. I'm like, oh, really interesting. Like, I didn't know that about my wedding. It just happened, and it just happened like 4 months ago, very quickly. But anyway, I had a question because people, for instance, in Australia is kind of like on the opposite time zone, I guess, or, weather pattern. So like, would they be like on the same like astrological chart?
So I think they would be opposite us, because it really has to do with that either waxing or waning sun. And so for them, they're now going into a waxing or growing sun, so they're auspicious. So it's different. It's completely flipped if you're in Australia. And of course, if you're kind of in the middle or whatnot, it depends on what end you're on. But really, it does have to do with like either the waxing or waning of that sun. I don't have many clients in different areas of the world.
Not yet.
I have had people from like the UK, but it's always like I've only had from the Northern Hemisphere, but it is definitely reversed.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So, yeah. Oh, I was also going to say this actual juicy tidbit. For my first marriage, I got married in September, and it didn't work out. Sometimes it's not a bad thing. It just means that in that scenario, it was not a date that was associated with something that would grow over time. And in fact, it did not grow over time. So it's just a good example of the fact that this can be predictive.
Well, let's just not talk anymore about failed marriage. Okay.
So I don't want to be a downer. If we're married during this period, there are other factors that go into making a date auspicious. This is just one layer of that, but it is interesting. Actually, if you're studying this and you just want to see like, oh, when did I start that course? Did I start it when the sun was waxing or waning? And if you just get that piece, you can kind of like do some research on your events that you've started in your life and see if they waned over time or did they get stronger over time. And too, I will say if something wanes or lessens over time, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you start one career that you then go on to another career, well, then it's a good thing that first career stopped growing so that you could grow into another career. So it's not necessarily like we don't always have the full picture, but it is interesting to kind of look at your own dates of when you started and look at how that may have affected things, the outcome.
Really interesting. So like when you look at somebody's chart, for instance, and let's say I'm your client, I mean, I am your client, but let's say I had a question like when's a good time for me to quit my job? Is this one of the criteria that you would consider? It's like, where is the sun right now?
Yeah, I mean, quitting a job is interesting, right? So Muhurta is more about choosing the time you start the job. And if you were quitting your job, we might look at when you started it. And if it was diminishing over time, then we would expect you to grow out of it.
Oh yeah. Okay. I can see how that.
Did you just remember when you started?
Yeah, I've had some instances where that happened. Like
I started a lot of my jobs started in September. A lot of the things that have diminished out of my life, diminished in importance or confined, or I've kind of like stepped down or decided not to do or whatever, evolve out of, a lot of them started in September for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, the shortest job I ever had started in a December. So I guess it's like winter solstice, but
if you, and so it's really weird, but
it doesn't matter.
One, it would have had to be, if it was diminishing, it would have had to be before the 21st.
Yeah, it was definitely before the 21st.
So that's a diminishing job. And it was was it very quickly diminishing for you?
I mean, it was like a few months,
Yeah, because here's the thing, the sun doesn't have a lot of pull there, right? And the sun is your essence. It's part of your drive. It's part of, what really keeps you motivated and targeted. And so if you're kind of like starting it on the weekend of the sun, where you kind of like would rather be sleeping or would rather be concluding things or, transitioning or whatever, it's unlikely to persist unless you can go ahead and get yourself a really amazing date that somehow you can keep that job, but it changes into something else. Or so there's interpretations of this as well. It's not like cut and dry, but go back and look at those dates and see if you can figure out what happens when you have a waning sun.
I mean, it was a really bad job, so I don't want to yeah, I mean, for curiosity's sake.
Well, that's what I was actually looking at some of the texts to see what would they recommend you do during this period.
Mhm.
And I was just thinking of like negative things that you have to do that you don't want to last very long. Like, I don't know,
Jury duty. I guess some people might want to do jury duty, but I'm not.
But nobody wants their jury duty to last
forever.
Yeah,
like
or whatever it is that they've been kind of like, there's also, like, say you have to do like a medical treatment that you need to get done and you don't want it to take forever. That'd be a good option because at least it's gonna diminish. And also they think of this as like a purifying time. So that was something else, but there actually isn't a lot of information about how to apply this to our modern context.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, as I understand it, a lot of shamanism, for instance, it interlaps with astrology.
Mhm.
A lot of it was oral tradition. And so we don't necessarily have a lot of the texts that were available, especially since a lot of books were burned and things like that.
I did do some reading and it looked like, at least in India, they do certain ceremonies at certain times of year. And depending on if it's waxing or waning or whatever, that does factor in. But
and yeah, I mean, but from my understanding, like this is solstice in particular, and winter solstice is a very powerful time for those transitions, that purification. And I was mentioning earlier, for instance, people would purify their crystals, which was heavily used in healing practices. I don't think it's a coincidence that people continue to be fascinated by crystals.
Yeah, and
it's so much money on them.
So in Persian culture, we'll probably talk about this when we get to winter solstice, but the longest night of the year is like this big party night where like dances all night and stays up late. But if you think about it, that's like the last kind of thing before you really have to get goal oriented, because after that, the sun starts growing. So you want to do those projects that are meaningful and enduring. So you have to kind of like take this time frame to get your mind right, so to speak, and go through what do I really want, especially right now because we're in Cancer season and it starts with Cancer season, and Cancer is the heart. So am I following my heart in what I do? And like, that's what needs to lead this summer solstice, so that as you kind of like progress through this time frame, you're considering and starting to slow down and starting to deliberate and integrate your emotions as like the starting point for the summer solstice. So that's how I look at it.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, and many traditions have like different like projects that they would do like based on the seasons. So not just, winter versus summer, but like spring, fall as well.
Yeah.
Each coincides with like, for instance, a different time in your life. Like for instance, winter could be said to be like the time of, your life when you're old. Wisdom, like you're about to like hibernate, for instance, and then be prepared to, go on to that next level. So yeah, that'd be cool for like later studies. Maybe we can talk about it again in the future. I'm definitely going to look into it.
Yeah, and I think like the Cancer season is all about home and family too. It's about the heart. And if you think about it, in the summer, we typically do get to go out and make those connections with people. And it is more of a bonding time. In the winter, we hunker down. So winter is associated with Capricorn. So that's going to end up being a time where in Capricorn season, once we get to the winter solstice, that's really the kind of end of the year where Capricorn is associated a lot with career. So it's like setting intentions of like, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's who am I going to be?
Mm-hmm.
So I really feel like for me, that's like a big indicator of what this time frame is about. Like, am I being, do I have integrity with what I truly want in life?
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of checking in there. Are my relationships where I'd want them to be? And have I taken measures to heal my emotional trauma? Because those emotions do percolate out in Cancer season, and they typically, a lot of it has to do with like family of origin stuff, or it has to do with our deep-seated, sometimes unconscious, repressed emotions. And so dealing with those, understanding those, releasing those, and integrating them allows us to better understand who we are. So really this summer solstice actually kicks us out of the nest and socializing, but it also brings us back home into thinking about who am I? Like, who am I? What am I going to do? And well, who am I? And then once you get to the other side, what am I going to do about it? So yeah, so this is always the cycle to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
What was the next on our agenda?
Okay. So I do have a preview of the energies for July. We can do that next if you want. I know you also talked about.
I want to learn.
Okay.
Tell me, what energies do I have to look forward to?
Yeah. Okay. So let me share my screen real quick.
And this is applicable to people in the US or to everyone?
Yeah, this is mostly US. Well, actually, you know what? I am pulling up the chart of the US, but it's not, I'm not doing a global reading of the US. I'm just pulling up, I happen to be pulling up the chart of the US to just pull up a chart. So this is the US chart. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see that.
Perfect. Okay. So, all right. So, and I'm going to back this out because I'm going to back this up to beginning of July here. So as you guys know, and right now, this is the 27th today that we're filming this, but we have quite a bit going on in Gemini right now. And as I said before, this sun is in Cancer. It actually came into Cancer when we had that, on the 21st, when we had that summer solstice. So you may have felt the energetic shift of the sun just kind of moving into Cancer. It really it starts us thinking about, are we okay with how we feel? And our emotions do take center stage. Depending on where this is in your chart, you're going to be feeling it in different areas. So pay attention to where Cancer features in your chart, in the house position. For me, this is my 10th house. So I'm having a very outward emotional experience where the 10th house is our exterior. And so, and that's also for me having to do with career, but look at where that's happening, because chances are the house position of Cancer for you is going to dictate the area of your life that is under consideration. For me, it's a lot of career stuff. And for any of you, just looking at the house number, you can decide where that's going to affect you. But essentially, this is all about home and family. This is all about your one-on-one relationships with people. Like, are you satisfied with how things are going in those areas? And you may have found yourself becoming just super emotional as that sun came into Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we've got Mercury and Venus in the sign of Gemini. So it's a fun time as well. So Gemini really does allow us to have those summer activities where we're just taking those short trips here and there, and we're having good conversation, because Mercury is all about having those conversations, maybe playing some sports. The recreation is a big part of what we're experiencing right now, and also just going into July. So as we get closer to July 4th weekend, and you can see here, actually, it aligns with the sun in the United States chart. So it's the birth time of our nation here in the US. And as we get closer, you can see that Mercury is going to pop over the following day into Cancer. And so what this really does here is you have Mercury hanging out for July 4th, just having a blast, enjoying luxuries, playing games, socializing with people. It's going to be a fun July 4th situation. There's going to be food, there's going to be little team sports, that kind of stuff. And then what happens is Mercury the next day goes into Cancer with the sun. And all of a sudden, all this fun and games kind of turns into a more emotional set of communication. Mercury is not quite comfortable in the sign of Cancer. Mercury is a very rational planet. So it's like having to put into words your feelings at this point. And so, yes, you've had a great time at July 4th. Maybe you've gone out and traveled to a nearby town or something like that. And at this point, you're having some deeper thoughts about and trying to explain those things to other people. And sometimes it doesn't come out correctly. And so because Mercury is such a rational planet, but Cancer is such an emotional sign, it's kind of like being able to balance those things. And so I would just say, as you start to kind of come out of July 4th, is you're going to be looking towards just realizing that sometimes our emotions are not rational. And we just need to express them, and it's okay to have feelings and to just say what you're feeling, because Mercury is a little uncomfortable, but it's necessary. So during this time, we're going to be taking measures to express these feelings that we've kind of internally been thinking about this whole time since the summer solstice came around. The feelings of, who am I, and what makes me emotionally feel good? And so at the same time, you're going to get Mars stepping out of Aries. Mars has been with Jupiter this whole time for about a month or so. And you may have noticed that Mars in Aries is this commanding energy. It really makes you feel like you have to get things going. And so you may have felt a lot of urgency before this. And even in that first week before this comes in to Taurus, which we'll talk about, that first week of July and rounding out last month, you would have just been feeling like, I have to get this done, got to get this done. And really what you were trying to get done are things that are goal oriented, because Jupiter's here, and Jupiter kind of blows that up for you. And also just be aware, you may have gone through a period, depending on if this was related to your 7th house, relationship house, where this was going on would have been a big deal for you, because when Mars was here, and it still will persist in there until the 4th. So even while you're with family members or socializing, be aware that Mars is still here with Jupiter. And what that does is it makes you assert yourself. And so I'm not too worried about it because honestly, there's such good energy coming about here with Venus and Mercury just kind of socializing well and being genial in the sign of Gemini. But really, where you see this shift, and I hope you guys have been pouring energy. If this is touching either your first house, your seventh house, or your third house, I really hope you've been putting energy into your physical body, because this is a lot of robust, like strength energy, because Mars is so strong and so focused. And, you know, you really could have done like PRs at the gym. You could have had your personal record at the gym, because you may have been able to put on some muscle, or at least be more active in that sense, physically active. And as this energy switches out, some people might be relieved, because this is kind of agitating in a way. I know that Jupiter and Mars actually like to be with one another, they're friends. But personally, I just felt like these two together sometimes were overboard. And there was earlier this month what we would call a planetary war, where where Mars was right on top of Jupiter, and it basically sucked Jupiter, which is wisdom, dry. And it says, no, I want this. And that may be good for you if you were having to assert yourself with somebody and just tell them what you want, because Aries is what you want. But keep in mind that this energy, and if you do need to make those declarations about what you want to do this before your last day will be on that 4th, because then we move on. And when we move on, we put Mars in Taurus. We're dealing with very different energy. So Mars here, this whole time, we've been having the energy to start new projects, get things done. You know, you may have had like 10 things on your to-do list, and you may have been able to like jumpstart a bunch of them in this energy. Not everybody would feel it like that. It kind of depends on your chart, but some people might have been overwhelmed by Jupiter, because Jupiter is so grandiose and has all these big visions, and it's very difficult to get them into action items. But you may have just felt like that restless energy of like, I have to do this. And so once this goes in to your to Taurus, now it's a slower, more deliberate action. And Taurus is, we're talking about assets, we're talking about money, we're talking about nourishment and resources. So now you're going to be putting a lot of effort and a lot of energy and some more deliberate action is what we see in the sign of Taurus. And this is all with respect to, like, you're going to be looking at, if you're really looking at financial solutions in a lot of ways. Okay, so because unfortunately we've had this Rahu or North Node in Taurus for some time now. And as a collective, it's been difficult to shore up our resources. That's why you look around on the shopping shelves, and sometimes it's not well stocked. It's because we're going through shortages of resources, which is Taurus. And so when Mars comes in here, you're going to have a lot more energy towards making strategic changes to getting your income enough order. So that's a really important thing that's happening. It's going to help with, and it's not going to be easy. I don't want to say it's going to be easy, because anytime Rahu's here or the North Node, it is something we desire that we can't have, or that we're having difficulty acquiring. But at least with Mars there, you are making efforts to put that into alignment and in a deliberate way. And so that's very helpful here. And really a lot of things happen earlier in the month. Saturn is just staying put, you guys. Saturn moved here December of of 2020, this was the whole Aquarian age thing. A lot hasn't happened with Saturn, very slow moving planet. So I won't go into that too much, but I will kind of bump us forward in time to see what happens towards the end of the month. Because as you can see, Mercury and Sun are here in Cancer. And Mercury and Sun actually are friends. They do quite well. And they're going to hang out in Cancer and then bump over to Leo towards the very end of the month. And when they bump into Leo, so you're going to go from a very emotion-centered experience, integration, communicating about your emotions in the first part of the month. And then towards the end of the month, you're going to go towards this energy of expressing yourself. So all that research you did on who you want to be, now you're ready to talk about it. And so it kind of is beautiful the way this is playing out towards the end of that month. And Venus bumps into Cancer at this point. And, you know, Venus in Cancer, it's how you really feel about self-care. You've expressed all these emotions. You're maybe a little raw from doing that. And now you just want to a little bit cuddle yourself. And that's okay. That needs to happen because you really are going towards this as a collective. We're going towards learning how to express all the things that we've learned about ourselves in Cancer season once we get into Leo season at the latter half of July. And then you see we have a new moon here. So what a new moon is a new opportunity. So seeds are planted here for something where you get to change your kingdom in life. So this is a big deal. And if you are looking at this, you want to be looking at the position of Leo in your chart, because this is going to determine where new opportunities exist. And you want to look at that in the context of this is a new opportunity to express yourself and create either like an enterprise or create new ways of creating the lifestyle and the vision that you want and the creativity that you want in life. So this is kind of a very beautiful summer coming out to July and in the way that I see this going. The only kind of thing that's difficult there is we do have to do a lot of emotional processing, but in the end, it's going to be fruitful. And we also, you know, are learning to scale these resource hurdles, which is so important because you cannot create your kingdom if you don't know how to fund it. And also, I might also say here too, one note to people is Taurus also represents real estate. And so if you are wanting to buy real estate, you might find with Rahu here that's very difficult to do so. And I know real estate prices are falling, and people that I've talked to who are trying to buy houses are just not finding what they want. And so there's more of that energy because Mars is what you want and Rahu is like not giving it to you. And so there's a lot of this energy that's going on. And I'll talk more about it as we go on our next sessions, as we talk about, you know, like what Rahu's doing in the future. But that kind of summarizes it for the duration of July.
Awesome. Thank you, Ida. I love it. And that's really interesting because in my own traditions, you know, I know Rahu not as like the obstacle maker, but like the god Rahu, and I know they coincide. And so I think it'd be interesting. Maybe one day we can talk about that, you know, like different traditions of, Rahu, the god, and what he looks like, and then synchronicities with that, and, how it coincides with astrology. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, that would be really interesting because I don't know a lot about that. I know a little bit about like the Vedic mythology regarding Rahu, and it's I also did, if people want to go back to my video that I did on the Rahu returns, if they're interested in Rahu, they can kind of like brush up on that. And that's really helpful because on the blog, I have what Rahu does in all of the signs. So yeah, so if we do that in the future, I can direct people to that, and then they can go after the discussion, they can go look at where their Rahu placement is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I always love that. I love it. I want people to take what I go over and think about it in the context of their own chart so that they can anticipate what might happen. Because again, I'm talking in generalities, but really you should be looking at your chart houses and where what's happening in Cancer, and also the planets that might be in Cancer. Like the United States has a ton of planets in Cancer, including the sun, which makes it a pretty emo country, which explains a lot. But we're not going to talk about the US today, but
no, we're not. It's too much.
In the context of your own chart, be thinking about which planets are affecting these transits, and as you learn more. Okay, that's that. Thank you.
Do you want to save it for next time? Because we're running on an hour now.
Are we over an hour now?
I think so. I'm talking a lot.
Like smush. Yeah, we might have to do ethics next time, but that's fine. Okay, we can just wrap this one up then.
Cool.
Okay, so thank you for joining us for a shaman and astrologer walk into a bar.
Even though none of us drink, but
No, we don't drink. I just want to thank everybody at Celestial U, and thank you to Nelly for joining us again, and to many more episodes to come. Oh, also, if you have a topic you want us to cover, just put it into the comments for us here on YouTube or whatever podcast forum you are on, which we will figure out soon. But anyway, that's all we've got today, folks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ida, for having me on again. It's always an honor to talk to you and learn so much from your predictions, readings. Your energy is just fabulous. So thank you again for inviting me back.
Well, also, I will say, I just love having you here. I love you to pieces, and I really needed that clearing, that meditation today. And I know so many people out there will benefit from this. So
I hope so. Yeah. Clear yourselves out, everyone.
Clear yourselves out. What are you waiting for? Get off social media once you're done with this, and then clear yourself. Take care, guys.
Bye.